Hey, oh, why is it all? Hey, there we go. Something went wrong. Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Today I have got the King of Pentacles as the obstacle, and the Two of Sharp, Pointy things as the opportunity. So let's get started with this one. I think this is. I think this would be indicative, representational, symbolicizing of somebody who who's got their attention on somebody that appears successful, or maybe they're even just focused on just the idea of wealth and success, but the direction in which their attention is pointing, the kinds of examples of success and wealth that this person is being drawn to are the ones where they generally consist of people posing and posturing and showing off their wealth. And these are the kinds of individuals that they're not wealth creators. They're not resource creators. And I imagine there could be a broad spectrum of people living living a privileged kind of life where they, either literally or kind of metaphorically inherited their wealth. Certainly there's a cliche reputation of, you know, young people whose parents are extremely wealthy who just can have whatever they want. Often these young people, they go around, they show off all the things they could buy with this money, but it's not money that they themselves earned. Anyone anyone being really impressed with these individuals, really risks internalizing whatever they have to say about wealth and hard work, or even what they don't specifically say but indirectly indicate that these kinds of displays or wealth are important, valid, and somehow a part of being an individual who has wealth, which in their case is not true. Um, so that's kind of a dangerous thing to get distracted with. Um, on the other end of the spectrum, there are people who have done work and have become successful, and it's not that they just inherited the money directly, but but another aspect of what could often be overlooked is the ability for people to either inherit a time and a place. There is such a thing as being at the right place at the right time. And I think nowadays more than ever, the right time, the right place, specifically at at a point in time when some new technology was being born, when it was taking off. There's a lot of people that became extremely successful in new industries. And so it's not like they didn't do the work. They came up with a piece of software that blew up. And they've been working, but nonetheless, often they neglect to admit or are even unaware of the kind of conditions that needed to already exist on the ground, so to speak, just for the idea they had to be to be worth anything. It's certainly possible that lots of people can have the same idea for some sort of a product over the scope of hundreds of years. And there could have just been plenty of people that, I don't know, maybe had the idea for Google, but it's like before the internet existed, before the idea is there, the technological landscape doesn't yet exist for that idea to be worth anything. And so this certainly isn't as as bad as the first example, but nonetheless, it often misses out on the kind of environmental and market forces. Often there's like a power vacuum or a service vacuum, and sure, the first person to take advantage of that, it's great. Sometimes people take advantage of that without realizing that that is the main component of their success. And again, one way or another, this card is about a person who is distracted and infatuated with those types of individuals. And in looking up to them, possibly modeling themselves after these people, is, maybe in the best case scenario, not getting the full story, not getting the big picture. But in some of the worst case scenarios, they are flat out internalizing ideas about how they should conduct themselves, what a good business person does, how an entrepreneur should behave, what kind of risks are worth taking or are not worth taking. They're they're absorbing all of these different experiences from those successful individuals that they could very falsely believe to be how you do things, and it could kind of steer them in the wrong direction. But so if you're interacting with this individual, you know, be wary of maybe they could be overconfident. They're like, I've read everything there is to know about Elon Musk. I know exactly how to do this thing, or that kind of a thing. And then this one, Two of Swords. So for the short video I mentioned, this hypothetical scene where you're walking down the street, you smell something amazing, beautiful. It's a flower. It's a beautiful flower with the greatest scent ever, and you want to take it home and you want to like own that smell, but you can't take it with you. If you take it with you, that means you have to cut the flower, severing its connection to the earth that sustains it. You take it, it's just going to start dying. So like what, you could leave it where it is, you could come visit it, but you can't have it, but at least that way it'll live. Or you could take it with you, but then it'll die. And I was kind of saying, is there some sort of third option? And I want to read one of my favorite as a potential answer to this question, which I think I'll just leave open. But I want to read a short story by Borges, who's like one of my favorite authors. A very magical writer, and he wrote a lot of really beautiful, really short stories, which I like because sometimes my attention span just isn't quite there. But anyway, so it's called The Parable of the Palace, and it goes a little something like this. That day, the Yellow Emperor showed the poet his palace. They left behind, in long succession, the first terraces on the west, which descend like the steps of an almost measureless amphitheater, to a paradise or garden whose metal mirrors and intricate juniper hedges already prefigured the labyrinth. They lost themselves in it, gaily at first, as if condescending to play a game, but afterwards, not without misgiving, for its straight avenues were subject to a curvature ever so slight but continuous, and secretly those avenues were circles. Towards midnight, observation of the planets and the opportune sacrifice of a turtle permitted them to extricate themselves from that seemingly bewitched region, but not from the sense of being lost, for this accompanied them to the end. Foyers and patios and libraries they traversed then, and a hexagonal room with a clepsydra. I don't even know what that is. And one morning, from a tower, they descried a stone man whom they then lost sight of forever. Many shining rivers did they cross in the sandalwood canoes, or a single river many times. The imperial retinue would pass and people would prostrate themselves, but one day they put in on an island, that's like when you dock, I think, put it on an island where someone did not do it because he had never seen the sun of heaven, It's like the emperor. And the executioner had to decapitate him. So this is a garden that is so large that people inhabiting this garden don't even know they're in a garden of an emperor. That's kind of like a subtle brag of that's how big this thing is, right? Um, Black heads of hair and black dances and complicated golden masks did their eyes indefinitely behold. The real and the dream became one, or rather reality was one of dream's configurations. It seemed impossible that earth were anything but gardens, pools, architectures, and splendorous forms. Every 100 paces a tower cleft the air. To the eye their color was identical, yet the first of all of them was yellow, and the last scarlet. So delicate were the gradations, and so long the series. It was at the foot of the next last tower that the poet, who was as if untouched by the wonders that amazed the rest, recited a brief composition we find today indissolubly, I don't even know what that means, I think like unseparatingly, linked to his name, and which, as the more elegant historians have it, gave him immortality and death. The text has been lost of this poem that he recited. The text has been lost. There are some who contend it consisted of a single line. Others say it had but a single word. Pretty badass poem. The truth, the incredible truth, is that in the poem stood the enormous palace, entire and minutely detailed with every illustrious porcelain and every sketch on every porcelain and the shadows and the light of the twilights and every unhappy or joyous moment of the glorious dynasties of mortals, gods, and the dragons who had dwelt in it from the interminable past. All fell silent, but the emperor exclaimed, "You've robbed me of my palace," and the executioner's iron sword cut the poet down. And there's like one more paragraph that I won't read, but I just really love this idea that like this scene where this emperor, he's taking this poet, this amazing poet, on this tour of this huge, like the most beautiful garden with just everything, right? And the poet is capable of summarizing it all so perfectly, even better than the actual experience. Because I mean, in a way, you can't, you know, a garden that big probably takes a pretty long time to traverse, right? So you can't consume it all at once. It takes so long. But this poet, he could fit all of that experience into this poem. And again, is that just a sentence? Is it a single word? But he does it. And upon realizing, when the emperor realizes that the poet has contained that entire experience of it, it almost feels like it almost feels like the poet has the real garden now, like he stole it from him. I just love that idea. And I mean, and then he like executes the poet for stealing from the emperor. But yeah, I think it's such a cool, maybe answer to the question of the flower and the smell and how you can have it both ways. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there as, maybe that's how you kind of deal with this card, with this kind of, it's like two sides of indecision. I'm gonna wrap things up for here. Hope you enjoyed the video. Drop me a like if you did. Feel free to comment free reading if you would like to be entered into a draw for a free reading. And I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Take care.